Morning, committee. Morning, staff. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 9:02 a.m. I'd like to confirm that we do have quorum and all members of committee are here with the exception of Councillor Nishikawa. Continue to be in a hybrid situation whereby we have some committee members here in the chamber and some online in Zoom. I'd like to also confirm that we have our CAO, clerk, and other members of the senior management team here and present today. Also, just a reminder to the public that we invite public comment to the following address, TML public comment at muskokalakes.ca. And today there are none received. Reminder that today's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lakes website and YouTube channel. By participating in the open public meeting today, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. There was no supplementary agenda, and at this point, I would like to ask committee if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. A reminder that motions have been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting, and members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. This vote, if the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded by the clerk. This is not considered a recorded vote. Fantastic. Okay, so we have no invited presentations today, but we do have a delegation. I believe they must be in electronic. Okay. At this point, I would like to invite Ms. Avery Kober, the Manager of Operations, to come and welcome. Just connecting to your audio. Welcome, Mr. Kober. You are muted. I don't know if you are muted, but welcome. At this point, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
There we go. I got it. Sorry, I was trying to find the button. Apologize.
That's okay. So welcome. Welcome to a beautiful day here in Muskoka. We're looking forward to hearing about the Beachfront Hut. You do have 5 minutes as part of this delegation.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Well, thanks for everybody for your time this morning. This is it's awesome. I appreciate the time to present. I got a question. Do I need to put the slide up, or do you already have the slideshow that I gave just a quick little 4-point PowerPoint?
Yes, I think our staff will share that for you.
Perfect.
And it's just coming up there now. Yes,
Perfect.
We can see it.
Perfect. So, like I said, I represent Windermere House, so I'm not sure how much everybody is kind of aware of the wharf agreement that we take in the house. So the reason I'm coming today is to hopefully work on and build a little bit of the partnership. If you could just go to the next slide. What I'm looking for is just a beachfront kind of cabana, a little hut down by the wharf area. We're going to take it back into it. We're looking to kind of expand what we're doing down at the beach. Part of the agreement is obviously that we have to look after the docks. So putting a structure down there like this, we're really just hoping to be able to, number one, just keep the staff out of the element. We're going to do a little portable power unit so that we're able to take payments down there. I think everybody's probably aware in today's day and age, nobody carries cash or anything anymore. So, being able to have something down there would be great. If you just want to flip to the next slide, please. Oh, it didn't kind of come up. So there is a little spot, if you can kind of see right in the middle of the beach there, in between those two trees. That's where we're looking at putting it. I kind of walked a space. I've been working on this a little bit with our Park and Recs team, Mr. Corey Moore. So we kind of walked the space a little bit, and just in the middle of those two trees, it kind of goes back a little bit and is a perfect space. So the structure that we're looking at building, we obviously want to keep it small enough that we don't want to do a building permit. So we're looking at something like a 14 by 10 or something. Just a nice structure, just so that we can kind of get something down there. Just to again, like I said, we're just, we're going to take it because we are going to have to do a little bit of the leveling of the of that spot there. It kind of looks like just in behind there. I want to say it probably accesses some of the sewer line. I've never actually opened the door to see what's in behind there, but there is a little spot, so we can't go back where we want to go as far as Sexori, but we do kind of want to keep it on the walkway, centralized right in the middle of the docks. And then if you could just switch to the next slide. So this is kind of what we're looking at doing for power. The only thing that we're going to need down there for power is we're probably just going to do a POS, which will be able to run off probably an iPad. We're going to have to do some portable Wi-Fi to get down there. And that's pretty much on it. That's pretty much it. So having just a portable power unit like this that the team will be able to just take down first thing in the morning and bring back up at night. There's no real infrastructure costs. So we don't have to run power lines or anything like that. So this would just be kind of a quick and easy unit. And just to kind of sum it back up. So overall, benefits as we kind of talked about through this, and I was walking with Corey, where it's going to go, this Beachfront Hut, like outside of the fact it's going to, allow us to better manage the beach down there, and a wharf agreement, just due to centralization, everybody coming in and the amount of traffic that it goes through, it's going to kind of become a little information hub, just for the town of Windermere, and again, I don't know how much you know about Windermere, but we've got new ownership. So we've been working with everybody around in Windermere to try and create some good partnerships around it. We've started with the golf course. We got a good relationship with the cottages just across the wake here. So we've been working around just with everybody, just trying to build a good rapport and try and, I don't want to say bring Windermere back to life again, but we're definitely working towards trying to revive Windermere as a whole. So having that little piece of it just back into there, with little things that might be going on with Muskoka Chautauqua this upcoming summer or anything like that, putting some slides and stuff down there too would be kind of our our benefit to putting something centralized down there as well. And that pretty much sums up everything I needed to say. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you. So as you'll note, Mr. Kober, that further on in the agenda will be the time when committee will have more of a chance to actually discuss this item and engage with staff. But at this point, what I am going to do is ask committee members if they have any specific questions for Mr. Kober at this point. Councillor Bosenworth.
Good morning. I was wondering if Mr. Moore could perhaps put his finger on the map where it's going to go, because it wasn't, I think I know where it's going to go. I was just curious on that. And then the second question is, you went over it fairly quickly at the beginning. Could you tell me what the main function of this building is?
The main function of this building will be, we're going to put a staff down there to help function with the wharf agreement. I think, not being able to keep a staff out of the elements, trying to keep somebody down there and keep control of the docks, especially in the summertime with people coming in and out. Just having a constant pulse down there to be able to take the payments, keep track of the timelines for when the boats are there, as well as, we have certain people that are able to buy, rent certain slips for the time. So the main function of this is just really just to be able to better manage the part of the wharf agreement, and be able to keep staff down there, 30-degree heat down in August, or when it kind of takes into rains, it gives them a structure to be able to come in, stay out of the elements, but also with the portable power unit that we're going to be able to put back down there, be able to take debits, credits, Visa payments, and everything down there just right at source, rather than what we've kind of had to do this past season and was request them to come up to the resort. So it's just more of a convenient function to be able to take payment at source.
Okay, thank you. Supplemental?
Thank you. What are the payments for? Is it for use of the dock?
It's for use of the dock. Yep.
But isn't that dock mostly free?
So there is a wharf arrangement. We have multiple wharfs, and maybe I could ask staff to comment.
Madam Chair, under the wharf agreement, the wharf manager is responsible for collecting parking fees on behalf of the corporation. And then those revenues are split between the hotel and ourselves.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Roberts?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through to the delegate. It is for the wharf manager on the dock. Will there be any other business operating out of there, or will the shed be used for any other purpose?
Okay, thank you.
Outside of, like, obviously we do have some beachfront stuff that we would do. So we would probably take, just in order to help clean up some of the canoes and the kayaks that we do, beside the little kind of beachfront hut or cabana, we'd probably put a rack so that we could properly take and store our canoes or whatever like that. But outside of that, we would be the only business operating out of there. So the only other function that it would probably do, like I said, would eventually probably become, just because of location, probably a tourist hub, because everybody's going to see it and kind of congregate to it. But outside of that, we would obviously use it to control some of our beachfront activities that are going down there. Probably, like, we do have some waiver forms and stuff like that we do need signed for certain things for some of our beachfront activities. So that would probably end up going down there. So anything going out, we would just have to sign the waiver form as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kent and then Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I'm really confused. I come and go from Windermere House quite often. Come to dinner, go play tennis on the courts, walk from the dock. I come by boat. Are you telling me I've never, in 20 years coming and going from that place, been asked to pay for a parking fee anywhere? I pull my boat in, I park it. There's never been anybody to help me, and I've never had to pay. So you're talking about changing the way that boats come and go from there into a public.
So it's not so much changing it, it's more so just enforcing it. The wharf agreement has actually been in place for a while. So it's more so just honestly just taking this into honestly just better management. And a lot of this is what this is that fact. Because we haven't been able to actually put somebody situated down there, we haven't been able to properly management. It's really, how it kind of operated last year was, we just kind of had a front desk agent try and go down there and check it, and then you miss some of the overnight parking fees that we're supposed to have. So if somebody docks overnight, there's supposed to be a fee. If it's over 4 hours, there's supposed to be a fee. So these are just some of the stuff. It's not so much that we're changing it. It's just that we're trying to better manage it and trying to enforce it.
So
thank you.
Can I
a
have
supplemental? Councillor Kent, is a supplemental question?
I'll remember. I forget about it. Thank you.
Okay.
Actually,
Councillor
one question.
Oh,
one question
Councillor.
is so that the house is really only intended to cover up the person who's going to be helping you. Are you going to have a dock boy who's helping you dock your boats, and like they do at other public clubs or something?
Yeah, it's this will turn into a service beachfront, and kind of like what I said, just because it's going to be a little bit of an information hub. We've been fostering some relationships with it, and I know people that come back in and they boat in for the golf course. I know, again, if we could get this, it's going to kind of morph, and I know that, like, just with what it would be. Working back in, if somebody docks their boat, we'd be able to communicate with the golf course to have somebody come back in and shuttle it to and from, so.
But based upon your presentation, what are you asking from council? I'm confused.
Honestly, we're asking for permission to build. There's no cost incurred to, there's no cost to council. We're just asking for permission to take it in and just be able to build and put the structure down there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're okay?
Yep, great, thank you.
Again, this is just for questions. We will have a chance to talk a little bit further in today's agenda. So I just want to make sure we remain on questions. Sure. Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. And through you, a question either to the delegate or to staff, I'm not sure. The Wharf Master Agreement, or whatever it's called, does it include a license to use, presumably a license to use the wharf itself, but does it also include adjoining land that belongs to the township? Because this piece of real estate, as I recall, is actually belongs to the township, not to the hotel. If I'm not mistaken.
It does, and that's why we're asking permission to build. It is townships property. So we just really manage the dock, but the land is owned by the township 100%.
Okay. Director Becking, did you want to add?
Just to clarify, Madam Chair, the wharf agreement does not have anything that permits use of the adjoining lands. It is strictly an agreement for service.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you. First of all, if you can put the picture up that you had of the land there. Where the sign is on your property there, just across from the marina, why couldn't you put a little hut there? It's on your land. I don't like using public land for private. There was somebody that wanted to do rental canoes and kayaks years ago, and we turned them down using public property. And that is a busy beach in the summer. I use it, and people come in from 3 Mile Lake, especially when the algae blooms are bad.
So it's a question about location. I just want to be sure we're clear.
What I'm saying is, why can't it go on your property and not there? Because like I say, and did you ask the residents? Because this is the first I've heard of it.
Okay, so Mr.
Thank
Kober, I believe there's 2 questions in there. Is there private lands that could be used, or have you contemplated that?
So walking where that space is and all that sign, it's not so much that we didn't do it. We looked at convenient, you know, and location for it. So having that presence when people come off, they would literally just be able to walk off their boat and go to this piece. And I have walked it like with Corey more from Parks and Recs, and we did talk about locations. You know, looking in, and part of this process that I've been also working with Corey is, you know, I've requested him, because it is part of Parks and Recs, to help revive that beach a little bit, put in some new sands, do some edging around the rocks. So this is going to be kind of coinciding with what we're looking for. There is, you know, just where that piece of land is, and you did talk about the sign there. We'd have to knock down a couple of trees and do some things. So it's not that it's not possible, but just from a sheer convenience, location, and presence to be able to properly manage. Because we are going to have people down there, because we do have beachfront activities from the resort that the council's been able to let us use. And you can kind of see what's happened previously. If you notice just on the right-hand slip there, you can kind of see the green kayaks in this picture. And that's kind of where the resort's been able to store them, is in those first 2 slips. So we lose revenue collectively between the 2 parties, because we're taking up 2 slips to store where we presently have it. And kind of like what I said before, is we'd be able to take those out, put a rack up beside this structure as well, and properly just stack them up and keep them stored.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moore, just Councillor Bosemworth had asked if you could visually show us these different locations, just so we're all making sure we are clear.
Yeah,
I know
So-
Mr. Moore is here in the chambers, and he is just going to point out to those of us at least sitting in the chamber physically what the locations are that we're looking at, Mr. Kober.
So if you can see kind of in between the 2 trees there, like down by, there's a little, I want to call it like a bench there.
Okay. Yes.
That's kind of where we're looking at, is right there, is right up there. Kind of tuck it in a little bit, just right there, and it would, once the trees fill in, it would just almost kind of hide the structure. What our vision is in what this structure would kind of look like. We'd be obviously looking at, you know, like a pre-built building with best intentions, but we try and make it look like a little mini Windermere house as best as we possibly could in terms of the structure. You know, it wouldn't, we don't want to build a barn look. We definitely want something cosmetically aesthetic, and the structure we're looking at building. And that's why I kind of put that one in the first slide of what we were looking at. It'd be a white building, you know, we try and make it look as much like Windermere House as we possibly could. So if you were to see it from the lakefront, it wouldn't be an eyesore. It would almost fit in with the whole beach and the property.
Okay, thank you. No, I think there was a second question, and that was public consultation in the community.
So we've talked. So I have had a few residents reach out, just in conversations, and sitting there talking about it. Some of the concerns from some of the residents was the overnight parking. So I'm not going to say that we went out and polled everybody, but we have talked to a couple of locals. You know, there's a couple things going on in Windermere. The big thing at Windermere House is the post office, so that's a completely separate, different thing right now. But also talking about the wharf and the access and the overnight parking. There was some concern that was brought to our attention as we were starting this process, just about some of the construction boats that were working over at Tobin Island last year, and were parking their boats overnight and taking over some of the parking spots for the golfers, you know, first thing in the morning or stuff like that. So I wouldn't say that we've went back out and 100% polled everybody, but because we do have the local pub and we do have a pretty good ear between myself and my managing director with some of the community members, we have talked to a few of them for sure. But like I said, definitely not went out 100% and went door to door or talked to any of that.
Okay, thank you. I see. Supplemental?
Yes, where you're talking about putting it, the memorial rock for the swim instructor Alan Wade is there, so you're talking about moving that as well, are you?
Yes, and that was something that I actually had a conversation with Corey about too, when we walked the space, was potentially just repositioning that.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Zavitz, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. And through you to Director Becking, the freight shed, as I recall, is completely open. There is no storage opportunity in that shed, correct?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So just a reminder, committee, that we will have a chance to,
Yeah.
if there's not any, we will still have staff here to be able to ask questions a little bit later and understand next steps. So, question?
Yeah.
Councillor Edwards?
As well as this 10 by 14 shed, you're talking about putting boat racks up as well?
Thank you.
Just and again, I'll be honest with you, that's something that we're requesting, and it's more so just to get the canoes and the kayaks out of water. One of the concerns that has been addressed is that the community definitely doesn't like to have just kayaks and stuff just on the beach. So I don't know if anybody's ever tried to go canoeing or kayaking and get into it off of a dock. It's not the most easiest thing at times. So if we're able to take them back out, rack them, and just launch them just off the one side, at least everybody can kind of get back out, as opposed to, you know, last year we did have some guests get back in and just fall in because they were just too wobbly trying to get in and board them off of that dock area. But like I said, it just a regular, I think there are 6 racks, like is what you can get. Just tuck it back in the side and you can just stack the canoes up on it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much. Committee, are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation today.
Appreciate it.
Our clerk will reach out to you after today's discussion to explain the next steps.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks for everybody's time today.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Take care. Okay, moving on now to item 7A. Director Becking.
Good morning, committee. The report in front of you is for information purposes. Get some feedback here. Information purposes. In November, the Supreme Court of Canada rendered a decision in a case regarding Regina versus the city of Greater Sudbury, involving a fatality on a construction site. The city was charged under the Occupational Health and Safety Act on a number of fronts, one of which was with respect to not exercising appropriate diligence with as the constructor, and also as not undertaking its responsibilities effectively as the employer. At the lowest court, the decision was against the Ministry of Labor. The ministry appealed that decision. Again, the court supported the city's view. It was again appealed to the Ontario Court of Appeals. which rendered a different position. That was then appealed to the Supreme Court of Canada, and the court agreed with the Ministry of Labor. The case is extremely interesting from a variety of perspectives, and I won't get into it, but suffice it to say that it's going to fundamentally change if the decision holds, and there is some question whether that's the case. And barring there being some change to the Occupational Health and Safety Act, it will fundamentally alter how we function, particularly as it relates to our construction contracts. Currently, and for the last, well, the majority of my career, municipalities have ceded their responsibilities under the Occupational Health and Safety Act to the contractor. And all of our contract agreements have said that in executing the agreement for award of the contract, the contractor agrees to take on the responsibilities of the constructor. I'm getting a lot of feedback here. Is it any better? Okay. That took away from the owner or the municipality the responsibilities for health and safety. What the court has done is basically thrown that out the window, except where we can go to extraordinary lengths to demonstrate that we've exercised due diligence. That now is the only defense for municipalities. So what it means is that we're going to have to take a far more hands-on approach to dealing with our contractors. A number of steps, including pre-qualification, which under normal circumstance you would only do on a multi-million-dollar job where you require very specific expertise. So things like a sewage treatment plant or a water treatment plant, you wouldn't typically pre-qualify. Now we're going to have to pre-qualify for almost everything. We are going to have to look at, as part of the pre-qualification process, the credentials of these contractors. What are their health and safety policies, and are they sufficient given the nature of the job to be done? And how do they align themselves with our own internal practices? We are going to have to monitor contractors much more closely. And if we find infractions, we are going to have to intercede. It may involve the issuance of things like stop work orders or instructions to the contractor. It's going to fundamentally change the nature of the relationship between the contracting parties. This is a work in progress, but I think it's something that you should have on your radar and keep close attention to, because the potential risks and the consequences are significant, and could extend all the way up to myself or whoever's occupying my position, and potentially to the CAO in terms of personal responsibility. So to that end, more to follow. In the meantime, I'm taking some precautions to up our game, as it were, so that we can demonstrate at least some attempt to carry out our due diligence responsibilities and trying to protect the corporation.
Thank you. Just a reminder, staff or committee, that this was for your information. There isn't a resolution, but I will ask if there's any questions or comments. Councillor Roberts, Councillor Zavitz, Mayor Kelly.
Microphone.
Sorry, Councillor, I'm in training here. So given that Director Becking has stepped up the game to make sure that he's doing what is necessary to protect the corporation, I'm concerned there could be a increase in costs. And I was asking Director Becking if he has taken that into account, or maybe he needs to come back and ask for additional budget. Thank you.
Okay, Director Becking.
Madam Chair, at this point, I think the changes or the efforts that we need to make are, for the most part, administrative in the short term. As I said, we're early days in this. There is some dispute amongst the community, shall we say, with respect to whether this decision was appropriate given the current state of the Supreme Court at the time. As the report indicates, it was a 4-4 decision, which is a rare situation, and that was precipitated by the fact that one of the justices had resigned. There is precedent for the Supreme Court to reconsider a decision. Admittedly, it is a rare occurrence, but it is not without precedent. So we will have to wait and see where that appeal goes. There has also been appeals to the province of Ontario, the government of Ontario, to consider some amendments to the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the situation. So in the short term, I think we need we can certainly demonstrate due diligence by virtue of making some administrative changes. That having been said, to the councillor's question, if we have to start pre-qualifying contracts, if we have to start regularly inspecting construction projects and forcing contractors to adhere to the letter of the law, as it were, it will mean more staff. I can't. We're operating right now full bore, and I don't see how we could take on additional responsibilities such as this and not have to increase staffing, or in the alternative, if we have to retain private services to carry out these functions.
Okay.
The other question that I have, quite frankly, is the nature of our relationship with the district. We contract, or we have an arrangement with the district where they contract on our behalf. And so what the implications of that are, because at the end of the day, we are the owner. And I haven't turned my mind to that.
Okay, thank you very much. A supplemental?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing supplemental. Then in that case, just a suggestion, then on those contracts, we should engage the district to do their own due diligence on the work that we do.
I've had opening discussions on that.
Okay, thank you. I think it was Councillor Zavitz, sorry. Councillor Zavitz and then Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. Through you to Director Becking. So I would acknowledge the concerns financially to this for sure. And obviously you've got your arms around that. As much though, I'm wondering about our tendering process. How are you feeling about that? This affects us as of now? We're doing walls and bridges and do we have to, I mean, doesn't this knock out if you, well, I shouldn't have that opinion, but there are some people that, are lower cost and they get in, they do the job within the realm, but, so I guess my question is, does it affect your tendering process as of this date or as of the date of this decision?
That, Madam Chair, is a question that has some legal implications, and I'm not sure that I'm fully competent to answer it, but I will answer the question this way. In my past practice, anything that was in play prior to a decision will be grandfathered. So it will adhere to the rules that were in effect at the time that the decision was made. The councillor made specific reference to the wall as an example. It predates the date of this decision, so I would argue that it's grandfathered because the contractual arrangement is already in existence. So the old rules would apply. Anything on a go-forward basis, however, would have to adhere to the current decision unless it's altered. Until such time as the alteration occurs, it is the law of the land. In terms of our tendering processes, I think it will certainly affect what we have to do in the 2024 fiscal year. And we will be making, as I said, administrative changes to our documents and so forth, so as to ensure that we can demonstrate a due diligence defense should, God forbid, something happen.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. And through you, a couple of quick comments and then a question. This is messy enough to drive somebody into retirement.
Well, Madam Chair, if you'll indulge me, I have had occasion to read a significant number of Supreme Court decisions and other lower court decisions over the course of my career. This is the first decision that I have ever seen where one of the justices, and I believe it may have been two, called the other opinion absurd, and used that word.
Wow.
And that's certainly foreign to my experience.
Well, my other comment was one of experience. One of the reasons that an organization like ours would hire contractors is to get the skill and the expertise that comes with somebody who has done something many times. And it's a little bit unusual to me that we would be put in a position of oversight on matters which presumably we couldn't do ourselves. And we're kind of babysitting people who we are hiring to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
That having been said, that is what it is. We'll have to learn to cope with it. The quick question is, this seems like an insurable risk. Is somebody working up, to your knowledge, a bonding or relationship for these contractors so that they can come to us and say, we've got it covered through a insurance arrangement?
Unfortunately, Madam Chair, the Occupational Health and Safety Act doesn't allow for those kinds of arrangements. It relies on direct responsibility of the parties involved. And that's why in cases involving fatalities, the people who are charged and who are convicted go up to and including the executive officers of corporations. And the law is expressly written so as to not allow those people to shelter behind the corporation in terms of their responsibility. So the fact of the matter is, based on what I understand and in the decision, insuring or getting insurance is not a solution.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councillor Edwards.
Yes, speaking about extra cost and that, it would be covered by the building department and that reserves, would it not?
Not.
No, if we have to hire someone to look after that, even though it's building?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Building code only applies to buildings, private buildings. I'll allow the CBO to deal with that. What I'm referring to is specifically related to the works under the purview of the Public Works Department.
Okay, supplemental. No.
Thank you. And through you, I guess, to the director again. So this being the renovation capital of Ontario, just in your personal opinion, I suppose, or your professional opinion, what kind of an impact might this have on the extensive number of renovation projects that, you know, Gary works with Bob and they come and do a boathouse roof or whatever. Gary falls and dies. I mean, is that a thing here and now on this particular aspect where any construction work that is tendered out by a party, that creates a whole new liable piece?
Well, Madam Chair, my understanding of the Occupational Health and Safety Act is that it applies to all things. And so in my opinion, I would say, yes, it does apply. This decision is a landmark decision, in my personal opinion. And its impacts, I don't think we've completely comprehended what the ultimate impacts of this will be.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Director Becking. We appreciate the update. On to 7B and Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, committee. Today's report is regarding the Milford Bay Community Center HVAC system. Committee will recall the replacement of the HVAC system at the Community Center in Milford Bay was a 2023 capital project. Upon the conclusion of the budget, staff received direction from committee to consider some environmentally friendly alternative options and review them and report back with the findings. With that, we retained the services of Tatham Engineering to help us with that review. The first step was to obviously develop a baseline model for the building as it currently stands. Tatham was able to do that and then compare those baseline modeling results with 4 alternative systems for the building. Those 4 systems we evaluated were an air source heat pump, a ground source heat pump, the high condensing propane boiler system, which was the original proposed option to move forward, as well as building envelope upgrades, so insulating the roof and walls, etc. Table 1 of the report provides the analysis of the energy efficiency of each of those alternatives. I don't think, to a huge surprise, the air source heat pump came back as the most energy efficient, saving approximately 88% of greenhouse gas emissions compared to the current baseline model of the building. Diving into the opinion of costs on each of the alternatives, table 2 in the report identifies those. The table identifies the upfront installation capital costs, as well as the life cycle costs over the 15-year units themselves. A big difference in the costs of the different systems. The air source and ground source heat pumps are well above the cost of the propane condensing boilers. Main reason being is there isn't sufficient power coming to the building as it is now. So one of the main upfront capital costs will be bringing in the required power source, a 3-phase power source to the building. So with that, going over the cost benefit analysis, staff would recommend proceeding with the propane condensing boilers. Although not as energy efficient, these propane boilers do take a positive step towards reducing greenhouse gas emissions, approximately 25% of the baseline model, while also being the most cost efficient alternative, approximately 60 to 80% less than the heat pumps. So with that, Chair, staff are available for any questions and happy to help.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder, there is a resolution, so we'll keep our questions first, then I'll read the resolution and then we can have a good discussion. So at this point, any questions? Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you, through you. I suppose to Corey, I guess I'd be wondering, how old is the building? How old is the building and what is its projected life span to this corporation?
Okay, thank you.
Through you, Chair, I believe the building is from the early 70s. I don't have the exact year off the top of my head. In terms of lifespan of the building remaining, I would say it's certainly one of our better built buildings. And I may actually defer to Director Becking if he has any additional comments on lifespan of the building itself, but I'd say it's certainly one of our better conditioned buildings.
Okay, thank you. Director Becking?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Mr. Moore is correct. I believe the building was built in the early 1970s, so 71, 72, 73, somewhere in there. The building is probably one of our better buildings, and I would expect that we'll get at least the 80 years out of it that we expect. It won't be without some retrofits and repairs and maintenance, but it certainly is a reasonably well-constructed building from all of the reports and observations that I've made. And I would suggest to you that it is a building that is worth further investment.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I will read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Burry, seconded by Councillor Bosenworth. Be it resolved that Council select energy conservation measure alternative number 3, high condensing propane boiler as outlined in report number PW-2024-002 to replace the HVAC system at the Milford Bay Community Centre, and that staff be authorized to proceed with the issuance of a tender package for the project. Are there any comments or discussion? Councillor Burry.
Thank you, and through you, to say that I'm disappointed would be a good start. I don't think we're looking at the long term in its totality. Attributing all of the costs to move phase 3 electricity into that general area of the township to this one project is probably foolhardy. But I guess I'm going to pick my battles, and I'm not going to fight City Hall. I recognize that air source heat pumps are a little early for some people, and fixing building envelopes. I guess my view is if we're only going to have a select amount of or number of these kinds of spaces for our community, that we should make each one of them excellent and make that investment over the long term to do it right. So we're talking about the environment, but we're just really talking about it. So I've said my piece. I'm not going to fight City Hall. I'll be voting against this because I don't believe it's in the best interests of the community long term. But we're only elected for 4 years, so I guess that's what people's vision is, 4 years. Sorry for the rant.
Okay. Councillor Roberts.
And thank you, Madam Chair. A comment is City Hall are the people sitting in this room that were elected. That's City Hall. So it's our decision on what's the best thing that we think going forward. I really compliment staff for taking this back and looking at it and trying to find the right option. As you know, I'm so very much an environmentalist and have not supported any of our plans going forward on the climate that we are currently doing. I'm still very disappointed on it. But I have to, on this, we've started the journey within this group to try to do better green work, at the grassroots rather than waiting on others. And this discussion happens. So that's what I have to say. Thank you. And thank you. Let's keep trying to do these projects and that we can do a little bit at a time.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and good morning, members of the committee. So staff have followed up on the request, and I thought the exercise that they went through was actually pretty fascinating from an enviro techno geek perspective, in that the analysis bore out what we thought. But I think it's important for you to remember or perhaps acknowledge that the focus of our procurement policy is really based on monetary value. And that's why your staff have provided the recommendation that they have. I'd also note that Mr. Donaldson is contemplating an update to our procurement policy. And if committee and council are desirous of including environmental and social perspectives as part of that analysis or focus, then we should be directing Mr. Donaldson to try and incorporate that into the equation. That said, there is an alternative, I believe, which does speak to the heat pump, or if you're not, you don't want to proceed with the propane approach, there is the alternative of the heat pump approach with the additional electrical upgrade costs, significantly more. But it is an option. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Committee, are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Boseworth?
Yeah, I think our, our whole society in the world is on a journey on trying to figure out how to deal with greenhouse gases and climate change. And, there'll be a lot of people running into challenges like this where the cost just, you can't bear the cost until things get rebalanced a little bit. So unfortunately, we're going to have to go with a solution that involves propane and greenhouse gases, but maybe the next one we won't, because the numbers may be not so different.
Thank you. Councillor Burry?
So I completely understand the monetary. Many people around the table know I'm building a garage, and I've done it with air source heat pumps and with a backup of a boiler, which I expect is going to be used a few days a year when we get below -25 Celsius, which is kind of where the operable space is. So, I do recognize that there's kind of double the piece. I think that if we look further down the road, the likelihood of us seeing more days of -25 here are becoming fewer and fewer. And so some of the things that we're going to need to look at is the adaptability as we move along. Taking phase 3 power into this space will allow us to have EV chargers there, which we probably can't have now, except, the level 1s or maybe some very rudimentary level 2s. Certainly can't go to a level 3 charger. And if we're going to look at charging, and the whole electrifying of the grid is a piece that we're on a path to. So I understand where we are today and the monetary of that today. And I do commend staff for having done great work on the cost benefit analysis. And I'm not in any way holding staff responsible for this. That this is the where we are. It's unfortunate this is where we are, but this is where we are. Money's no object. There's certainly a way to do it. But it's not always money is no object. And so I do appreciate the fact that staff took a step back and looked at, building retrofit and all of the other various pieces that are associated with trying to do the things the right way. If we're looking at 25 years and 30 years in the buying, the total cost of ownership model, which is relatively new to municipalities. I get that. So there I've said my piece, and thank you to staff.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent report. Thank you to staff for bringing it out. I've had some experience with heat pumps over the years. It was in the 80s when they did a large building in Toronto. There was nothing but no heat calls constantly all winter long. As soon as the wind was blowing, they'd be calling. If it dropped down, it would be calling. We end up having to put rads under all the patio doors going out and everything else like that. That was one that was they had a boiler in there to provide 90-degree water so they could use the heat pump. Finally, we had to crank it up just basically to a regular 180-degree water to even try and satisfy it. And I don't think the large buildings at this point are really suited for this, and this kind of proves it. And that's why I will be supporting the propane boilers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So committee, I have read the resolution. I don't think I need to read it again. I will call the question. All those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? Okay, that carries. Thank you. Okay, you're still with us, Mr. Moore.
Yes. Excuse me. Committee will recall in December, we had a delegation from the Muskoka Lake Snow Trails Association. And from that discussion, staff were directed to further the conversation with the association and report back with an update. The report itself is just for information only, but staff were able to have multiple meetings with both the Snow Trail Association and the District of Muskoka staff. We had some really good discussions regarding roles, responsibilities, where support was needed. Committee will recall the association had three main asks, if you will, of the township. One was for maintenance support. One was help with finding a permanent base for operations. And the last was future budgetary support funding. So with just to give a bit of analysis on those three topics and some of our discussions we had in terms of maintenance support, we were able to review mainly in the urban centers where the trails required to maybe run on the sidewalk or side of the road, and where the township can do provide support and help keeping snow in those certain areas to allow them to groom the trail. So we've certainly been able to identify those locations and ensure our operators are aware of them. The second part of maintenance support is in terms of brushing. There's a few sections of the trail on more rural roads where the trail maybe runs alongside the road, etc. And we were again able to identify the specific locations in most need from the association standpoint and incorporate and prioritize those locations within our existing brushing operations. From a permanent base for operations itself, the association identified how their current lease with the District of Muskoka property is a 5-year lease, which restricts their ability to apply for some provincial funding. We were able to have some good conversations amongst all the parties. Township staff ourselves, we did an inventory of property we own between the preferred location of Glen Orchard to Bala. Unfortunately, there just wasn't a lot of good options that worked for either the snowmobile club or properties that were just landlocked, couldn't get to, etc. So in discussing with the district and the association, I think certainly the preferred approach is to utilize that District of Muskoka property long-term. And with that, the district agreed to provide a letter confirming their desire to extend the lease on the property, which certainly helped with the association's ability to apply for funding, etc. So they're going to continue down that path. The last point was as it related to future budgetary support. At the delegation, they identified a number of $20,000. In that regard, staff shared information about our current operating grant program. Committee will recall at the beginning of the annual budget process, we receive requests for operating grants and we include them for consideration through there. And staff had directed the association that would be their best approach moving forward through the 2025 budget. The operating grant program is for non-local or nonprofit local organizations to help with some of their operating funds. And committee's aware some of the groups that currently get that are the Chamber, Muskoka Lakes Museum, etc. So staff have advised them that that's probably the most appropriate approach moving forward. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. This is for information. There's not a resolution. So at this point, I'll open up the floor for questions and comments. Councillor Zavitz, Councillor Roberts, Councillor Boseworth.
Good, thank you, and through you to Corey. Thanks for the report and great dialogue. And I think we as a group challenged the township to get together with the snowmobilers and continue that dialogue. So thanks for doing all of that. Great meeting. I do know in your permanent base for operations portion of your presentation, as I understand it, there is a certain timeliness to the need for the District of Muskoka to provide, that letter, if you will, that agreement.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if you could speak to the timeliness piece, because as I understand it, for them, for the snowmobilers to apply for government grants, it's urgent. Is that being expedited? Question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you,
Moore?
Chair, that's correct. There is an urgency to that lease extension. I believe mid to end of March, I think, is the grant deadline. And that was definitely discussed as part of our conversations. And that's why the path of the letter was the preferred kind of solution to that, because it can be done at the staff level at the district at this time and suffice the requirements for the grant funding. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. Councillor Zavitz?
Thank you for the supplemental. To that end, not an influence piece as much as can we as a township stay with the district closely on that issue and, check in. It's one thing to say, yeah, the district's on it. Well, they got a lot of other things too. This is very important. If they don't get their grant, forget the snow. They're in a lot more trouble than that. So thank you for that.
Mr. Moore?
Certainly staff can do that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Roberts? Your mic, please.
Thank you. That was my exact question. And I have, as all aware, have really got involved with the club to understand their issues, and they recognize what the advancements they had made at the township and the district have made with them, and the first meetings and the collaboration, and they want to continue that on with their list, which I said I would help them to do that, because I think there's in that report may not say there's the property on the district, there has to be planning that's involved. So I said I'd help them stick handle through that and coach. The point that I guess I would ask through to Mayor Kelly, who sits on the Public Works Committee, could you pick up the phone and call Commissioner Steele and just say, where is this letter? I know there was a lot of concern when I talked to them on Sunday that the window is collapsing. And they just, if they could have any opportunity, the sooner they could get the letter would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Kelly?
Thank you, and I'll call him at lunch today. We have a public works meeting. I think it's next Tuesday, but that's probably too late. We'll get it. Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Becking, I see you.
Just the latest update I had was that the letter had been drafted and was being prepared for the commissioner's signature. So I do know that it's well on its way.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your diligence. Councillor Bosenworth?
Thank you, through you, Chair. My understanding is that the previous lease agreement pricing was $1 a year, and that had been agreed to between our previous mayor and a staff person. And I think there's some discussion about bringing that to market rate, which might be a pretty heavy hit for the snowmobile club, given that they're trying to rejuvenate themselves and may not have funding. Can you talk to us about that and explain what the status of that is and how that's being written into the agreement, and how does the snowmobile club feel about it?
Okay, Mr. Moore?
Sure, through you, Chair. So the lease agreement itself is with the District of Muskoka, not the township. I don't know all the details of it specifically, but I do know it was brought up in some of the conversations and discussions we had. Currently, the lease agreement is for that $1. And as I understand, through the district's policies, any type of lease of their land would have to be compared to the market value at that time. So that was brought up and discussed. I think ultimately at the end of the day, it would be a decision of district council, what they would prefer to do moving forward. I'm not 100% sure how that factors into this letter, and not knowing, kind of seeing the letter or the draft, I'm not sure if there's any language in there speaking to that, what specifically. So Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Yeah.
CAO Hammond.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and just following up from Mr. Moore's comments. So, like the delegation that council is going to have this afternoon from a community group about waiving or reducing fees, I suspect that the Snowmobile Association should be doing the same thing through the district process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Supplemental?
Yeah, and so can Mr. Moore maybe help make that happen? Or,
It's
well, no, with the snowmobile club, if you're working with the snowmobile club, make sure they understand that that's the route
Yeah.
for.
So working with them to understand what the process could be
With the
for them
district.
at the district.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Roberts?
Thank you. In my conversation with the Snowmobile Club on Sunday, they just need an answer. Is at least good, how much is it going to be? Then they can make decisions, but right now they're in limbo.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like Mr. Moore is very much involved in all of these discussions, and now it sounds like you have some further information, Mayor Kelly, going into next week's meetings on how to support this group. Is that
Exactly.
correct?
And the only issue about timing, as I understood it, now I haven't seen the draft letter. The letter was not going to specifically nail down a lease cost because there is some exercise the district would normally go through to establish market value. And that's going to take a little longer than next week. So I think there's something in the middle that bridges the gap, but I'll ask Commissioner Steele as well.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards?
Yes, with the lease. These volunteer clubs that do stuff and that. A lot of people won't volunteer anymore because of something like this. Do we pay these volunteers the market value for their assessment going in and helping? The snowmobile clubs bring in millions of dollars a year to the district, to the township and everything else like that. We should remember some of that as well, not just, oh, can we make an extra buck here and there? And that, even if they charge them $570, same as they charge for a license for a dock on the rivers or something like that. But I think we have to realize that they bring a lot of money into the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other hands, thank you very much, Mr. Moore. Committee, before I get into 8A, I think we will take a 15-minute break and we'll come back, and I think that gives us a chance to finish off today's agenda quite nicely. So let's be back here for 25 after 10. Yeah, 25 after, as long as that clock is correct. Okay. Thank you. I believe we have cameras back on and I will just wait for committee members online. I see committee Councillor Kent and Councillor Nishikawa did just join us just before the break. We are going to be moving on to item 8A, but in advance of that, I believe Councillor Nishikawa, you were here earlier in the meeting when we asked about pecuniary interest. Did you want to speak to that now?
Yes, thank you. I will be disclosing pecuniary interest for application LS 2024007 for Skapinker. And I will be speaking on the topic as their agent.
So it sounds to me like Councillor Nishikawa is declaring a pecuniary interest and the request to delegate. And I would ask Director Proshi if you could kindly, have we had a request to delegate on this topic?
So under our procedural bylaw, we do require 24 hours notice to provide public comment on a matter that's on the agenda. I have not received anything to date.
Okay, so
Thank
that
you.
would
Thank
be.
you. I will withdraw. I'll withdraw
Okay.
and I will turn off my camera during the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I will have to deal with everything else later. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Nishikawa will be, we are moving now into that item, Councillor Nishikawa, on item 8A. So if you've declared, thank you. And at this point, I will ask Chriselle to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Mazan, and good morning, committee. The township has received an application to purchase a portion of original road allowance from an abutting property owner located at 1075 Packers Bay Road, Unit 2. Staff have noted concerns of the application as closure of the original road allowance would landlock a neighboring property owner. As indicated in policy CLS08, applications will not be approved if other owners are or may be deprived of access to their properties, and further makes no exceptions or exemptions to the granting of right-of-ways. Additionally, closure of the portion of original road allowance would negatively affect the neighboring property owner, as well as an abutting property owned by the township located on the south side of the original road allowance. In light of these concerns, staff are recommending that the application be denied. And with that said, I will turn it back to the chair.
Thank you very much. So committee, are there any questions before I read a resolution? Are there any questions for staff? I'm seeing none. I will read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Kent, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that original road allowance application ORA-07-23 Skapinker be denied. Are there any comments, discussion? Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chriselle. Thank you. We are now moving on to new business. So the first item is going to be 12A. Sorry, okay, that's a great idea. Thank you. Councillor Nishikawa, we are complete. If you'd like to put your camera back on. Moving to this one, right? Yes, okay. So it's... And as we'll note under section 12A, there isn't a resolution at this point in time. We heard a lot of good new information from a delegate and shared some thoughts and vision, who has clearly been working with staff in behind the scenes to try and help fashion forward a solution. So at this point in time, what I would like to do is open up the floor for discussion, and then we can create an appropriate path forward for this topic. So I see Mayor Kelly has his hand up, Councillor Zavitz, Councillor Roberts.
Thank you. And through you, my perspective on this Windermere thing, if this is a good idea to have a hut there, and I don't know if it is or it isn't, but if it is, I think it should be something that the township builds and leases to whoever is the wharf master at the time, just so that there's no confusion down the road. I don't know if it's a good idea. I'm not making that call at all. But I think we need to look at it. If it is, we should be responsible to design and build it and lease it out to whoever on whatever basis coincides with the wharf master agreement.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zavitz?
Thank you, and through you. I'm very supportive of what the mayor just said, and I guess to that end, I wonder if I could ask the Director of Public Works. I'm not as familiar with this property, although we go there, but I'm not as familiar with the notion that what the township owns, in fact. And I wonder if we could have a slide, I guess even from that presentation, it did show, you know, an aerial view of the property. I'd be really interested in knowing what the township does own. I wasn't aware we owned that beach, for example, or I'm supposing we did. Thank you.
So a couple of options here, and I do want to make sure we listen to other people, but it feels to me like the appropriate next step would be to have staff come back with a report that'll gives us a more, at this point, it was introduced to us by a member of the public, and I think we owe it to staff to go back and help us. But I do want to make sure we've heard, because I think that will help form or it might give new information or questions for staff to be considering. So I appreciate that. Councillor Roberts, mic on, Councillor Kent, and then Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for staff. How many businesses currently operate on township property? So we have a business actually operating on our property, and what are the requirements, or what do we set in place for those businesses?
Okay, thank you.
And then I have a
Becky?
comment.
Yeah. Director Becky?
Madam Chair, simply put, I don't know how many properties or how many situations we have. I can speak in general terms, however, that if someone wants to carry on work on public property, they are required to seek a permit from us to do so. That would be the normal approach. We can certainly, if staff are directed to prepare a report, we can provide you with that information.
And a supplemental.
Yes, thank you. More of a comment, because I had heard from the delegates that they'd use it for their boat hanging boats and stuff like that. So it really is, and I can see this could really go into a bigger operation when you have Wi-Fi and you can sell hamburgers and hot dogs and stuff like that. I was concerned with the suggestion that since it's only so many square feet, they wouldn't have a permit, but it's on township property. So I think that the buildings should do that. I know there's insurance implicated, and I know the area, there probably would have to be a deck. And so those are my concerns that you could put in the report. The other one is that the basic need was for the shelter for the wharf attendant. And I'm thinking that rather than a built structure like that, is that I propose that we use similar to what we afford our constituents. What we're going to be doing in Milford Bay is put up these kite structures, or Dr. Becking, you realize the one which would be could be taken down, and anyone can move around in the shade, because there are many businesses and operators and people that work in the sun all the time, and just this would be a nice place. So those are my suggestions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think it was Councillor Kent, Councillor Nishikawa, then Councillor Edwards.
Thank you. I have a few little comments. First of all, do we get the fees from the parking, or do they get to keep the fees from the parking? Number one. Number two, I think it's more than is necessary for a coverage for a staff member who's going to help dock boats. There's another building on site, which is right at the front, it's open and it's covered. Don't understand why the attendant can't sit under there. I mean, the people who dock boats don't have to have fancy huts to sit in. The weather's not that inclement. There are bad days, but put an umbrella up and that's your job. So that's number two. And number three, if we are going to build something that is owned by the township, I don't think it should be being used for their boats and their docking. I think perhaps it should have some Chamber of Commerce materials. It should be a location where we're going to provide tourism stuff. And you put your window out and you put some paper materials there. I don't think this is necessary, but I would certainly support them hiring somebody and doing this. But it should either be in a temporary structure like a tent, or under that other red building, which I don't really know its use. I'm saying that ignorantly. Maybe somebody from staff could comment on what the building is that's open on the left side of the dock there. So who owns the fee? Who gets the fees is question one. What's the purpose of that other building? Could we be using it? And three, I think, perhaps it could be extended if we decide to go forward with this for more of a tourist municipal site.
Okay, thank you. Director Becking.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That particular wharf, the Windermere Wharf, is subject to a wharf manager agreement. The purpose of the agreement is to solicit their services to manage parking at the wharf. Fees are collected and they're split, I believe, on a 60-40 basis with the hotel, who is the current wharf manager, and frankly, it has been for quite a number of years since the bylaw has been put in place, which I believe was back in the late tens or early teens of 2000. As far as the other building, which is on the left-hand side, I believe that is the freight shed that you're referring to. It's a classic Muskoka feature. It's open on all four sides. It has a roof to it. We do use that and rent it out throughout the summer months for things like Muskoka Chautauqua and a few other events. So its use on a permanent basis would impact on what has traditionally been the arrangements.
Okay.
Can I just follow up?
Yes, Councillor Ken.
One staff member sitting in the corner of that shed would not really take away from the ability to use it for other purposes. It's just an alternative temporary arrangement. And if I'm clear, we get 40% of the fees from parking. I don't think we've ever gotten any in the past because no one's ever billed me. Did I misunderstand what you said? 60% goes to Windermere, 40% goes to us?
That's my understanding or my recollection, Madam Chair, but I would have to go back and consult. That having been said, wharf fees, I believe in 2023 were something like $20,000 for the season.
So I think it's fair to say at this point, that should be an important part of the future staff report was for us to understand the wharf arrangement.
Okay, thank you.
It doesn't just happen here, it happens in other areas as well. And this is a good opportunity. And I think what the applicant was saying earlier today was this facilitates a better ability to manage it and enforce it. So clearly there's been issues and they're trying to find a solution and how to manage that. So I think all of those pieces probably in your staff report going forward would be helpful. I've lost the thread. I think it was Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I would not be supporting this application. And what I heard was the needs of a private business that they basically want, and that's a fairly big size. Like if you look at a lot of people that have raised their kids in the area, they basically have a phone booth at the end of their driveway to keep their kids dry and safe and all of those things, waiting for the school bus. So there's that sort of situation, but I also recognize, and it's surprising that it didn't come up, at least when I visited there, and certainly went with a lot of kids, we played on that hill. Where do kids play in Windermere? Like it seems like we're forgetting another element of our population that frolics and plays in the water and all of those other things. It's not just about, this facility isn't just about the docking and improving the business of Windermere, because certainly we've had lots of different owners over the years and lots of different options available. I'm not in favor of staff coming up with a new report unless we were going to look at all of the wharfs and changing everything we have done to date. I don't believe that we need another staff report on this. Unfortunately, other councillors need to be brought up to speed about how we operate the township, but I don't believe that staff needs to create another report on this. And that's just my feeling. I don't believe that this is in benefit to the public.
Okay, thank you. Councillor, I think there was, Director Becking.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to correct something that I said earlier, according to the unaudited financial statements in 2023, we collected $24,517 in docking fees.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edwards and then Councillor Rosenworth.
Well, first of all, I agree with Councillor Nishikawa. This is a park, and that the most complaints I get in Windermere is about the Windermere House, and it's the sprawl. If you look back on page 6, sorry, where the picture is, they've got some boats there are there for the season, which is putting them in direct competition with the marinas like Parker's and everything else like that. They've taken over the one side on the swim area. They put kayaks and that in there. I had complaints about that because they're bumping into kids and everything else like that. There was never any boats over there. We did get it moved back to the other side. They want this for their boats and everything else like that. And that years ago, on the far side, you can't see it on the beach. There was a little concrete pad. There was a little shed there that Windermere House had for years. And they finally got it taken down because that the people didn't want it, and they finally got it, and it took years. And this is sprawl. This is a beach. There's not that much area. I don't think we need a study. I would say no. If you look at the drawing, there's a sign on their property over there. They could put a little hut over there. People could walk over and pay. And as far as the thing, it said they get free parking for up to 4 hours. And I believe we extended it to 6 hours when they were complaining about the people going to play golf and that, so they extended it there. And anything after that and overnight, but they don't need it. They can walk up. They walked up to the general store for about 6 or 7 years and paid. So they don't need it there, but they could put something on their property or a tent, but they don't need a building. Thank you, and I will not be supporting it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rosenworth.
Actually, I just had a question. Is it $20,000 for the whole township, or is that what we collect at Windermere?
Chair, my recollection is that Windermere represents the lion's share of the total amount. The amount that I've just quoted is the total amount for the entire township. That having been said, there are only 3 locations where we have wharf managers, and Windermere and Beaumaris are the only 2 where fees are collected. I'm going from memory, but my recollection of the preceding year, Windermere was sort of $16,000-$18,000 or thereabouts.
Supplemental. That is a place where people, contractors like to leave their boats. So I would suspect that a fair amount of that revenue might have been for permanent or people who have a lease for the whole summer. Is that correct? Do you know?
Madam Chair, I think only there is a small handful of slips that are designated for year-round use or for a year-round lease. It's handed out on a lottery basis that is run by the hotel. The lion's share of the slips are intended for what are referred to as itinerant users, people who come in for a few hours the day, et cetera, et cetera.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thoughts are here on this is that we're fortunate to have two locals areas at Beaumaris and at Windermere that have stepped up and are collecting this money for us. In the case of Windermere, you're looking at they get 12,000 and the township receives 12,000. And so I'm saying we do have another area called the Milford Bay Golf Course that is totally run by volunteers, and there's no money type of stuff that's changed its hands. So they do it all on a volunteer basis. With this particular case, we don't want to be looking for a wharf manager, I don't think. We would have to probably contract someone for $12,000 for the summer to do this role. And so I'm thinking that the shelter that is similar to what we're putting in children's parks, maybe staff, I don't think we do need a staff report on this particular thing, that they could go back and say, we could build or help you build or use some of the money to build this structure that's like as Councillor Nishikawa was saying, like a little hut for their children to get out of the cold. I think that we could be appropriate little kite thing that the individual could sit down there and get out of the heat. So those are my comments.
Thank you. CAO, okay, Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. And through you, I would like to see a staff report. There is a large economic development opportunity that comes with new ownership at this resort, and this may play into that. There's also sort of rebirth to the Chautauqua in the neighborhood. And I know last year they were looking, if I'm not mistaken, for space almost in that same location to store chairs during the course of Chautauqua. So I would like to have those opportunities canvassed and have staff come back to us to tell us what other possible opportunities there are. And it's certainly not because I'm slow getting up to speed on the way things have operated. It's because, frankly, I think it's time we look at new opportunities as well. So.
Okay, thank you. CAO Hammond.
And Madam Chair, thank you. The other thing I would note for committee is that if you are considering locating or permitting or thinking about permitting a structure on the property, you're likely going to want to know what the process to do that is. And my sense is there may need to, depending on the structure, could be the need for a license of occupation. You're going to need a report anyways. So I think it would be helpful for you to understand the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Director Pink.
Thank you, through you. Just to further the CEO's comments, I believe I don't believe any structure, if it's privately owned, would comply with the zoning bylaw. So I think the first step would likely be a planning application. The zoning bylaw requires a minimum 66-foot setback from any water body and 25 feet from any street. Now, should the municipality wish to construct something for its own use, public use by a public authority, we would be exempt. So that could all be explored further in a staff report, should committee go that route. But I just wanted everyone to know that if the desire is to allow the Windermere House to construct their own structure, it won't be as straightforward as just a license of occupation or your simple permission. I think they'd have to go through a few added hoops. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edwards and then Councillor Bozemer.
What council may not know is with the Windermere Wharf contract, they also have the ones over in Maple Leaf Bay, which are completely separated from that. So are they going to put one over there? No, because they want it for their life jackets, their boats and everything else like that. People have walked for 15 years up to different ones, because the general store had it, the Windermere House has had it. I believe even one year the marina had it. So it's just a case of this is for their stuff. And I'll tell you, the community will not be happy with this. And that because, like I say, it's public park and they don't have that much in the area. And everyone uses it. If you're there during the summer, it's full. People sit under there for shade from the trees.
Okay, thank you.
So that, like I say, I still will not be supporting this. I will be talking to the hall boards and everything else like this on this and that, but like I say, I know from what the feedback I've been getting over the years that the community will not be supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bosworth?
Thank you. I'm a little conflicted because I am very sensitive to what Councillor Edwards has been saying, but I also am encouraged by the new ownership of Windermere trying to keep the place open all winter long. I think is a tremendous thing. And so I think we should have a staff report back here because when you've got a force like that at work, you need to work with them. At the same time, we need to respect the community, and these are parks. So, you know, let's work with them on maybe even on a broader way about how we can help them bring vitality to the area during the summer and help them make it a go through the winter as well.
Thank you. So I do have a resolution in front of me, but if I could, I don't see any other hands up right now. I did want to pick up on one comment I believe the applicant had mentioned was that this would become a serviced beach hut. And I actually wrote that down because I think that I like the direction of this is a township park. And the park right now, we're talking just about the grassy land, but there's also the beach, which has been referenced. And this is an area that we could look to say, how does the township enhance an important part of our community in a way that benefits the entire community? And that's where I would be saying, let's have a staff report that will help guide us in that direction so that we're not working against a property owner who is wanting to find new ways and innovate and be a partnership so that everybody actually finds ways to win in this situation, because the beach is a public beach. Right, so we should also be making sure that that's very clear in whatever comes back in our communication and working with them. And as far as the additional part, I think Councillor Zavitz brought up even understanding where the public lands are is helpful for us. So if we identify this area as a public park, oftentimes we put things in silos or in segments. Maybe we need to understand that in the Windermere community, and then it actually brings us all together instead of this kind of contrary opinion. So that's my general comment. I see Councillor Zavitz. I was about to read the resolution. So I'll last comment to you and then I'll read the resolution.
Thank you, through you. So if we're one of your pursuits is to consider a staff report, certainly I'm in support of that. And I would suggest to staff that the usage of our parks, so now not to get this thing too big an envelope, but I do know, for example, you know, we have a pride bench at Windsor Park. We have and yet there's a memorial. So there's a memoriam bench at Sunset Park. So, you know, contemplating usage. I mean, it's a bench, so it's for the public. So isn't this great? I think we need to consider park usage, all of our parks.
Yes.
If that could be included in that staff report, that'd be great. Thank you.
So perhaps I don't want to take this. I think that was one of the key recommendations that Mr. Murray, you're working on is park standards, correct? So this is almost a part of that process I would almost envision. So I will read the resolution, and then if there's any other further comments, there's still a chance to chime in. Moved by Councillor Bosenworth, seconded by Councillor Burry. Whereas committee received a delegation regarding Windermere House Resort's request for a beachfront cabana to assist with present wharf agreement obligations. Now therefore be it resolved that staff be directed to investigate the request and bring back options and recommendation to the next committee meeting. Are there any comments, questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, that carries. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. Director Becking. We are now moving on to item 12B. There's a draft resolution brought forward by Councillor Nishikawa and Councillor McIntyre. So there isn't a staff report, so I will ask the two of you to, Councillor McIntyre, it looks like you're on deck to start off. Councillor Nishikawa, would you like to introduce this resolution, please?
Sorry, my page just flipped. A second, please. I don't know why it's not coming up. Sorry, I just wanted to confirm because I have two issues that I wanted to discuss.
This is the one on Mortimer's Point
On
Road.
Mortimer's Point, and so I'll just do that quick introduction. Well, it's not cool. So we had, over my years, probably at least the last 15 years, we've had numerous complaints about the traffic in front of, basically it's the trucks going to Mortimer's Point or to the dump. And a property owner had requested and in fact, she had contacted the mayor in the past and I had followed up on it, that in fact, this change be brought forward. It is, and as a person that travels that road often, and I'm trying to be very conscious of the speed because you're basically traveling in front of people's docks, like their houses are separated. The road is separating their properties to the waterfront. So I'm just asking if we could send this to district to request a speed reduction. It's being asked for many, many years. I don't see any reason why we can't ask this and bring it forward. And so I'm just asking for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McIntyre, did you want to add? Okay. I will open up the floor to questions at this point. There is a resolution. I can read that and we can have questions and comments. Do we want to do it that way? Okay. Moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor McIntyre. Whereas concerns have been raised by a member of the public in regards to safety on District Road 26, Mortimer's Point Road. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township of Muskoka Lakes requests the District Municipality of Muskoka consider a reduction in the posted speed limit on Mortimer's Point Road between Muskoka Road 169 and Evelyn Road to 30 kilometers per hour. And that consideration be given to the passage of a bylaw to designate the portion of road to prohibit the operation of heavy vehicles, and that no trucks signage be erected at the intersection of Muskoka Road 169 and Mortimer's Point Road and Evelyn Road and Mortimer's Point Road to give force and effect to the designation. So now I'm going to open up the floor for questions and comments. Councillor Zavitz, Councillor Bozemer.
Thank you. I have two thoughts. I guess a question to the director first. What's the current speed there? Is it 40?
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I believe the speed limit is 50.
50?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's, yeah. So you'd have to be on our side of the ward if you, or the township to understand how, the people are impacted. A lot of people are impacted by the trucks. I want to say cutting through, but they're really not. I mean, that's an access road, so use it. That has a direct route to Everly Road to the transfer station. And I have witnessed it. We use it a lot as well to go there. And yeah, I think this is a pretty sound, I think two pieces to it. To lower the speed I think is important for our taxpayers. And I think even more important than that is I'm not so sure the moniker is no trucks, but it's trucks over a certain weight. And because there's a lot of heavy equipment traversing that road, heading to Everly. And yeah, I think this is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bozemer, Councillor Roberts.
This has quite a few possible unintended consequences, I think, because of the only alternative way to get to the transfer station from Ballot is a long route all the way up to 169 and then back down. That said, I do know that bay where those houses are, they have their house on one side of the road and their dock on the other, and having these, I presume they're large transport trucks, like the waste trucks coming through. So I certainly see you're going, it's like going down a residential street, a quiet residential street. I mean, it's that compact. The speed limit, I think, should apply to that area only, not the whole road. Because the rest, when you're driving along Frank Miller Road over to Everly, I mean, that's a road.
you're going through the bush. You're not going to drive at 30 kilometers an hour. And I, for one, am constantly frustrated by places where they put unrealistically low speed limits. I mean, maybe Mr. Becking can confirm, but I think there's a general principle out there that you should have the speed limit at around 70%, where 70% of the people naturally drive. And no one's going to do the rest of that road at 30 kilometers an hour. It's hard enough to drive at 30 kilometers an hour. That's very, very slow. But I would support 30 or 40 in that area just at the beginning of the road.
So Director Becking, did you want to comment on speed limits, safety, background?
Certainly, Madam Chair, thank you. The councillor is generally correct. Normally, speed limits are set according to the 85th percentile speed of so 85% of the traveling public on a section of roadway is traveling at a given speed or lower. And that's the usual yardstick that is provided. I'm frankly going to express a counter argument. I believe that lowering the speed limit to 30 kilometers an hour would reduce safety, not increase safety. If you lower the speed to unrealistically low levels, the traffic simply will not obey it. If the traffic, as a general statement of principle, won't obey it, the police will not enforce it. Without enforcement, it's just a sign on the side of the road. It's more noise. The other thing that I believe, and I have seen this in my professional practice, is the fact that it creates an unreasonable and unrealistic expectation on the part of the pedestrian. They believe that the sign says 30, so therefore the traffic will obey the sign, is the fundamental assumption. The reality is that that doesn't happen. What it does is it places a false or unrealistic expectation in the minds of the pedestrian, and they unfortunately behave according to that assumption.
Thank you.
Particularly in the case of young children, they don't have the judgment skills to make those kinds of decisions. So I think the other comment that I will make is that this is, as a number of councillors have alluded to, this has been a constant refrain for years. The last time that I'm aware it was looked at in some depth was about 2 years ago. The district found that the current conditions were appropriate in the circumstances, and left conditions as they were. To the best of my knowledge and belief, I don't believe that there has been any change in conditions that would warrant a re-review of the situation. I think the other thing that I will say is that prohibiting trucks, it's a light switch according to the Highway Traffic Act. If you prohibit trucks, that means all trucks. So as a consequence of that, declaring that a no truck zone means no trucks, period. And so I would caution the committee that simply putting up signs declaring no trucks would not be an appropriate course of action.
Thank you. And I do see just a few other hands up, but I just want to be sure I'm clear because this is a district road. This this decision is really at the district. This is simply us saying, hey, this continues to be an issue on this portion of the road, correct?
You're correct, Madam Chair. This is a district road. We have no ability to make restrictions or influence this decision in any way. The ultimate responsibility and authority vests with the road authority, which is the district.
Okay, thank you. I do see many other hands up. CEO Hammond, did you? No? Okay. I believe it was Councillor Roberts, then it was Mayor Kelly, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Zavitz.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. I believe that I know I am from Ward B, but I do understand that road and a lot of the roads. And I really, when I drive through that little area, I think you come down a hill and you go the properties that have to cross over. And I truly believe that we should do everything that we can to sort of slow down. I'll remind everyone that our school zones are 40. I rarely see a 30 anyplace. So it would be, I think we should consider that area to begin with at a 40 and maybe putting calming signs up when the flashing signs that Director Becking would know best whether they're going to be any good. But I think that's that. And just take this small chunk of area and see what we can do and then look at the rest of the road as we move on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I think the idea, and I'm just going to table it for a moment, would be to amend this to say 40 kilometers versus 30 as one idea. The other idea possibly is to explore other traffic calming measures. And then the third thing for question, and I'm going to continue this conversation though, is whether or not to include the no trucks or not based upon Director Becking's comments. So Mayor Kelly.
Thank you. And through you, I think maybe it's been mostly covered. I wondered whether they've ever tried any other traffic calming measures, potholes, for instance, or speed bumps, something that might tend to bring people down. The other point I would make is whatever it's at right now, there's no, I don't see ever any attempt to try to police it. I've never seen anybody stopped along there. I know that it can be a race course of people passing through. Other thing is we might consider this. I assume the real issue is seasonal, that it's not as big an issue in January as it is in July. That might temper it a bit. I guess at some point, having the knowledge now the district has looked at it in the last couple of years, and not wanting to prescribe anything or get it, if we make it too prescriptive, I mean, I guess we could suggest that it just be revisited and have another look. Maybe the traffic patterns have changed. Maybe the volume or speed has changed. I don't know whether it should be 40, 30, or what was the original number, 30? I think I can walk faster than that. So I can't imagine that we're going to get anybody to slow down to that level consistently. So traffic calming measures, seasonality, those kinds of things. If we just turn this back and ask district to have another look and find ways to solve what the other thing is, obviously narrowing the scope right from 169 to Everly Road's a long stretch, and there's horse farms and there's all sorts of things along there. So it seems to me containing it, but maybe even just not even being specific, asking for another review, may be the best we should hope for.
Thank you. I was just asking a procedural question. Director Peroshi, Councillor Zavis.
Thank you. And through you, I guess to the mayor's point, if we can have a fulsome ask of the district to review this particular road and state the parameters of from where to where, from, I guess, 169 to Everly Road, I guess, then great. Yeah, I mean, let's get them to have a look at it. It is their road, but it's our concerns. They're not watching it perhaps like we are. I do know that the truck thing is a real thing, but I hesitate to call it cutting through. In fact, there is only two ways to get to Everly Road transfer station, and that's one of them. So I'm torn by that. Other than a limitation of, I don't know, you can put a sign up that's trucks over 10 tons not allowed, or 5 tons, or whatever it is, because there's a marina storage there, and he would haul a trailer with 6 boats on it, for example, into his yard, so I think we need to, if it's that prescriptive, if we can actually get the district to weigh in and cover all these variables, or do we ask them for the following checklist? So that's my question.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the assistance of CAO Hammond.
Madam Chair, I guess it depends on your perspective. You've heard from Director Becking as to his opinions on a variety of matters. I think what we should likely be doing is rather than being prescriptive, as the mayor is suggesting, identify what the concerns are and ask for a review of the situation, if that's where we're going. Thank you.
So perhaps I can, Councillor Bosenworth?
Not a terribly important question, but perhaps, a truck is a truck. So the highest selling vehicle in North America is a Ford F-150 would not be allowed. Is that correct?
Director Becking?
No, Madam Chair, the provisions within the Highway Traffic Act apply to heavy vehicles, and those are defined.
Thank you.
So we're not talking about pickup trucks. We're talking about straight trucks, tractor trailers, A trains, B trains, so on and so forth.
So I guess I would like to ask the Councillor Nishikawa and Councillor McIntyre at this point. It's sounding like there's support of asking the district to go and have another look at this portion of the road to see, I will use the broader term of traffic calming measures. Would you be open to rewording? We can take a 5-minute break, rewording a resolution or amending, I guess, this resolution to reflect that for committee to vote on. So Councillor Nishikawa and Councillor McIntyre, is that, or would you, is that an approach that you would like to move forward with?
I would have preferred to leave it more open for district to make their own determination. I always find myself, it's interesting, these conversations, because we become experts. We're all now experts about speed limits and all of those kind of things. And in fact, I would be looking at the experts for their information, and I hope to get that from district. So if
That's
we're going to pick it apart,
yes,
and
yes, I think that's what we're in alignment with. Then that sounds.
No,
good.
I think though that if we just narrow the ask to really something very much more simple, like just look at traffic calming, that in fact it's not going to open the ability for a larger discussion, other than I will be there and ask for a larger discussion. And if we can't put it in a resolution, I guess I'll just have to make sure I show up at district to ask for that information.
I think we could probably put it into resolution. The committee, what I'm going to suggest is let's take a 5-minute break. Councillor Nishikawa, perhaps you can call Director Peroshi and we can work on an amendment to this resolution. When we come back, we can actually figure this out. So let's take a 5-minute break. Councillor McIntyre, given you're the secretary, you can come here as well.
I'm not going to contact district in the next 5 minutes to get the answers for this.
I didn't say district, Councillor Nishikawa. I said contact, because you're out of the room, contact Director Peroshi.
So I will
trying to
be able
draft
to
an
take a
amendment to
break?
Yes, we're taking a 5-minute break to allow you and Councillor McIntyre to amend a resolution that satisfies what we are talking about here. So committee, we will take a 5-minute break. We'll be back at 11:20 and I will be able to help this process forward. Thank you.
Bye.
I've just been working with these guys to produce a new thing. I think it addresses what we want to address. It basically says we're asking for an operational review with a view to enhancing the safety of this portion of the road.
Great.
That's about the way it is.
Yep.
Is that good?
Well, it's gonna be what it is.
Okay, just wanted to check with you before I go in there and sell this.
Well, whatever, right? Like, it's just, you know,
Yeah, no.
everybody's got an opinion. Yeah. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.
I am asking everybody to come back. Councillor Nishikawa, if you could come back on camera as well, please. What I have before me is a substitution resolution. So I am going to read this. And if committee, we then can have any further conversation or discussion on this substitution. We will vote on this substitution if that's the one that we want, and then I can set aside the previous one I've read. Correct, Director Peroshi? Thank you. Okay, so let me read this new resolution. Moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor McIntyre. Be it resolved that the resolution be substituted for the following. Whereas concerns have been raised by a member of the public in regards to safety on District Road 26, Mortimer's Point Road. Now therefore be it resolved that the Township of Muskoka Lakes requests the District Municipality of Muskoka to conduct an operational review in order to enhance the safety of the section of Mortimer's Point Road located between Muskoka Road 169 and Evelyn Road. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Edwards.
Just have a comment on the no trucks in that. Better check with Google Earth, because if that's the shortest way to the dump, it will probably put them down that way, because they have made a lot of mistakes over the years, because we've had tractor trailers come in Dawson Road and up Longhurst Road to get to Windermere, because that's the way it directs them. And it may be directing them along those roads too. So just a thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zavitz?
I can speak to that. It isn't tractor trailers. It's commercial vehicles carrying open bucketed refuse, like larger, but not, certainly not 53-foot trailers. I've never seen one of those. Yeah, I've never seen one traversing that road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So this is the substitution resolution. I have now read it. If I don't see any other hands, I will call the question then. All those in favor? Okay. Thank you. That does carry. All those opposed? Okay, seeing none, that's good. Say that one more time. All in favor of the main motion as substituted? I guess we have to put up our hands again. Thank you. Procedurally, I have to. Thank you. That carries. Okay, what do I sign then? Okay. Thank you, Director Peroshi, for keeping us on the right side of managing these meetings. Moving on now to item 12C, which is the discussion on cannabis, which we had quite a lengthy report last month from our Director of Economic Development. Coming forward this month by Councillor Zavitz and Councillor Roberts is an actual resolution. So at this point, I will ask the two of them to do an introduction. Councillor Roberts first, okay.
Thank you, Chair, and to the committee. In preparation of this meeting, I did go back and re-listen to the discussions that we had last month. And what I could gather from the discussions were about 5 reasons why some thought that the cannabis retail would not work or was not a good idea in our township. So I'm just going to review those and remind committee what I see them to be. One thought, and it's not the top priority, and they said that we already do have within the Bala area, an area where a location where people can go and get the product that they require. But it was noted at that meeting, again, my understanding is that that establishment is not government regulated. And the store is not convenient for most of the township of Muskoka Lakes. Number 2, once the statement was made that once again we were being forced to decide on opting in and opting out, and we never can opt out again if we decide to opt in. And my research suggests that the reason this was done was not allowing municipalities to do the flip-flop, was to prevent the detrimental impact to an honest, well-intended individual who has invested significant effort and money to establish legitimate and lawful business. And number 3, there would be a very little economic benefit from establishment that was cannabis retail. And I agree that for some of our small communities and hamlets, there would be no benefit if for this, and I wouldn't think that any retail would set up in there. But for Bala and Port Carling, you will recall that Mr. Cox mentioned that the retail the retail will provide some benefit. We don't know how much that is, but there will be some benefit. And right now, the people that require that product are going to outside of the township and spending their dollars there. Number 4, we need to attract year-round businesses, and this retail appears to be seasonal. I would suggest that real estate offices, storefronts that we have in our township are now more seasonal, given that their new business model, most of the real estate sales are done online. Most of the research is done online. They don't walk, a potential buyer does no longer walk up and look at a screen. So I suggest that we leave it to supply and demand to determine which businesses will survive. And number 5, if approved, there'll be cannabis stores popping up all over the communities and small hamlets. And I don't see this happening, given what I've seen, the normalization of that business in the last 4 or 5 years. And you recall the presentation that we had in December, that the delegate really did give insight to how this offering has matured. That's the final point. Now, within there also, one other one is that the community doesn't want it. So I went back to my notes, and I did review the 200, I didn't do it again, I just looked up my notes. There were 253 people that responded to the survey, and I went through and read every one of them, scored them whether they're for or against. And 54 of the 253 opted out, wanted us to opt out, where 154, we said we wanted to opt in. So I think if we did that survey again, given, how this is, the survey numbers would be significantly, in my opinion, be higher. As many are aware that the cannabis product has 2 components. You have one that makes you high, and one is called CBD, that is for pain. And I can attest to the point on the pain from my community, that people suffering from arthritis and different things, that they really welcome the cannabis stores for the oil with CBD to manage their pain. Yes, they can go to a medical doctor and go through the process of having a prescription, but it turns out to be much more expensive, and the product that they receive is cheaper from the cannabis stores. Councillor Kent mentioned last meeting that there has been a significant knowledge gain since 2018. And we have all observed how the market has adopted and adjusted to serve their customers. Cannabis retail is not the first time for municipalities and townships were given an option to opt in and opt out. In 1904, municipalities and townships were given the option to opt in or opt out on alcohol retail. The majority opted in very quickly, but one last town held out. And I know the area very well. I have family stories about bootleggers and stuff like that. And in 1972, the city of Owen Sound finally decided to opt in and not be a dry town anymore. I can only assume that at that time in Owen Sound, it was a significant objection of an interest group that no longer could fight the battle to keep the town city dry. And I can also assume at the time it was the age change of young people that we're thinking that, hey, we don't want to go to Chatsworth to buy our liquor. And I could see you smiling, Dr. Becky, so you know.
Councillor Roberts, I just want to do the 5 minute.
Okay, yeah.
We're getting
Am I at
close
5
to that.
I don't think
I would like to give Councillor Zavitz.
I've had my clock going and I haven't spent 5 minutes. So I'll turn it over to my
That's the way you're getting close to. That's thank you very much for that. And I know you've done your homework, so thank you for that. Okay.
Mike, thank you very much for this, and I certainly subscribe to all of what my good friend has mentioned. I think in aggregate, I just have one simple thing to say. After 5 years of this being part of everyone's life in Ontario, that pure and simple, this is an economic development play. That is what you are about to vote on, nothing more and really nothing less. So I think that in those terms, I think this subject has been battered around enough, and I think I'm ready to vote.
Thank you. So what I'm going to suggest, committee, I will read the resolution, and that way I can open up the floor for other questions or comments. Moved by Councillor Zavitz, seconded by Councillor Roberts, whereas subsections 41(3)(4) of the Cannabis License Act 2018 provide that a municipality that has opted out of allowing cannabis retail stores to be located in the municipality may, by resolution, lift the prohibition and permit cannabis retail stores to be located in the municipality. And whereas the Township of Muskoka Lakes acknowledges that such a resolution would be final and may not be reversed, now therefore be it resolved that the Township of Muskoka Lakes opt in and permit retail cannabis stores to be located within the municipality. And that the Township Clerk provide the Register of the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario with written notice of this resolution as required by Ontario Regulation 468-18, passed pursuant to the Cannabis License Act 2018. And that staff be directed to draft a cannabis retail outlet commenting policy and the delegation of authority by law to permit staff to comment on private retail store proposals on behalf of the Township of Muskoka Lakes for council's consideration. So at this point, I'd like to open up the floor for any other questions or comments by committee. Councillor Bosenworth.
The language in the last clause of the resolution, I didn't find very clear, and if someone could explain what that means.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts or okay, CAO Hammond.
To be clear,
Nobody.
you know, what is a commenting policy and what delegation of authority are we giving?
Oh, okay.
You know.
CAO Hammond, thank you.
So essentially, and Mr. Cox may want to add some more detail to my comments, but essentially what you're doing is you're delegating authority to allow staff to comment on retail store location proposals. Those comments would be predicated on the policy that you've approved, right? So any parameters in that policy will be reviewed and comments provided by staff on those proposals. And the reason for that policy is that quite often these proposals may come forward. There may not be time in terms of a committee cycle for council to weigh in on the matter. So by approving a policy such as this, staff can provide commentary and then include an item on the agenda that this proposal came forward, this is what was said, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you. Supplemental?
Yeah, yes, thank you. So this would be coming back to us with the commenting policy. Is that correct?
No. Sorry, I should.
Well, you will have to approve the bylaw as well as a commenting policy. If you approve this motion, this is another step.
Right, that's, I mean, there will be
Those
another
are-
step.
Correct.
Okay, and the policy might be things like, you know, we don't want within 300 meters of a school. Is that type of?
So there's provincial requirements which already prescribe that.
Thank you.
And
Okay,
so it's been a while since I've seen such a
Fair enough.
policy, but I'll leave those details to Mr. Cox.
that I don't need to hear them here, and thanks
Okay.
for the clarification.
Thank you. Mayor Kelly?
Thank you. And through you, I came in here with an open mind and totally ambivalent about the outcome. But after hearing Councillor Roberts' remake of the National Film Board film strip that I sat through in public school, I would support this on economic development grounds. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Zavitz?
Thank you. Through you, I would ask for a recorded vote in reverse order. Please.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, Councillor Edwards?
I'll make a comment, and I know it'll go through, but I'm not supporting it, and I'll tell you why.
Yes, sorry, I would like to hear.
If you
Councillor
go
Edwards.
up to Huntsville, from the Iron Bridge up to the top of the street, there's 3 cannabis stores plus one in the plaza. And the only reason I'm voting against it is we can't limit them. We can't say where they're going other than 300 yards from the school. And I think that's wrong. And that because every general store can have, if they're selling cigarettes, will be asking for to sell marijuana. And I don't think at this point, I would not support it. We don't get anything from the government. That's the only reason. If we could say we could have one in Port Carling and one in Bala, I would support it. But I will not support them just saying they can go anywhere they want. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other hands up? I just want to make sure everybody's had a chance to say their piece. Okay, so at this point, Director Peroshi?
Councillor Zavitz?
Now, according to the list, the Mayor Kelly is below me on the actual resolution.
Sorry, you need to put your mic on as well, please. Director
Sorry.
Peroshi is,
If I look at the resolution, all of our names are listed and Mayor Kelly is at the bottom.
So I'm reading in alphabetical order and you asked me to go in
We-
opposite alphabetical order, and
Okay,
it's
so,
actually
yep.
the chair who will vote last.
Fair enough. Yay.
Councillor Robert?
Yay.
Councillor Nishikawa?
Yay.
Councillor McIntyre?
sorry, can you please put your mic on?
Yay. Sorry, no. Councillor Kent?
Yay.
Mayor Kelly?
Yay.
Councillor Edwards?
Nay.
Councillor Burry?
Yes.
Councillor Bosamworth?
Yay.
And Chair Mazan?
Yay.
The vote carries 9 yeas to 1 nay.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Roberts and Councillor Zavitz, for bringing this forward and your ongoing diligence on that matter. Manager, Mr. Cox, we'll look forward to your future reports and help guiding us through this, so thank you. I did, sorry.
It's very good to be in the national film version. I thought it wasn't.
Okay, committee. We are now moving on to item 12D, which is the district updates. I will start with Councillor Edwards, Mayor Kelly, Councillor Burry, and then Councillor Nishikawa. Councillor Edwards.
Okay, they had a public meeting on the Muskoka Official Plan Amendment 58, and that's basically how they're gonna advertise anything because of the newspapers closing down. And one of the things that was mentioned and we should look at is larger signs, and that the small signs are not big enough for people passing by, and they should be almost like a real estate sign out at the end of the property, not 50 feet in and nailed to a tree or something like that. So we should be looking at that. That is one thing. There were just some budget amendments where they just move some stuff around, but it comes up with exactly the 82,960, the same. And that's basically it. We had a very, very short meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Kelly?
Thank you. I'm just going to give a quick update on the district task force for attainable and affordable housing. There's a second matter that we're going to talk about, but I think it's on the agenda for this afternoon. That's the hospital. There'll be a verbal update on that. Attainable and affordable housing continues to impress me. The quality of the people on that task force, the focus, the drive, the commitment from the district with a pledge of 20 to 30 million, which I think I said last time we spoke about this, I'm equating to 29.99 million. I encouraged, we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I think. And my point there my point continues to be with some support from lots of support around the committee, but support elsewhere as well. It's a meaningful enough money that we got to think about more than just the product of housing and a lot more to do with the process of building housing. And so I've spent some time with a manufacturer of modular homes, a half a day in the district, and got some commitments from Chair Lehman to sort of guide us through and get some money, hopefully from other levels of government, and move this forward. So good things, I hope.
Thank you. Councillor Burry.
Recognizing in between us and a timely finish for lunch. Finance and corporate services was a very light agenda with a fair bit of housekeeping and some consent items around policies and some tax ratios and tax rates. Nothing significant to us. In fact, I would say it was a very, very light meeting, given that we've done our piece in funding the district's budget for the next year.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Nishikawa.
Essentially, I think you've seen everything in the media about the cost of hospitals and long-term care, and that's the biggest discussion going on. There have been some further discussions about the Port Carling ambulance station, but nothing really more to report on that. I do have a question. Sorry, I'll ask the question later.
Thank you. I apologize, Councillor Nishikawa, if you asked me a question. I was asking our clerk for a process question. Was there a question? No, sorry, I apologize about that.
Yes, I did have, I had my hand up before and I didn't get recognized. And so I do have a question before we leave new business.
Okay.
So I'm not sure when I can ask that.
Okay, that's fine. That's exactly what I was just having the conversation, because I think there's a couple of people who'd like to bring items up under new business, and I was just about to ask that question. So before we get the ongoing process for community events, I really liked our calendar. I'm now getting updates. I just would like to remind committee that if there is something happening in the community, to please encourage not only yourselves, but members in your community, the community halls, to continue to use our hub, which is going to always be now as a link on this agenda. Now, I'd like to open up the floor if there's any other items for new business. So it sounds like Councillor Nishikawa has one, and I know Councillor Roberts has one. So perhaps, Councillor Nishikawa, why don't you go first and then?
Thank you, and this can be just very brief, and perhaps staff can relay the information to me offline, but there are members that are watching this meeting today because I was asked to bring forward a resolution concerning East Bay Road. And I see that the resolution was not on the agenda, and I'm not sure how to answer the community of why it didn't make it there for discussion anyhow, at least. So I'll leave it at that point because I don't want more to say, but I just want the public that is watching to understand why we're not discussing it today.
Okay, thank you. CAO Hammond.
Madam Chair, so staff are going to report to committee on matters that committee directs staff to report on. With respect to a request for a resolution, I believe there's a process through the clerk's department to put such resolutions on the agenda. So if there's a desire for staff to report on East Bay Road, if committee wishes to entertain the request, staff would be happy to report back.
That request was made to the clerk along with Mortimer's Point Road.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Director Peroshi, did you know? Okay, you will have further communication offline, it sounds like. Thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for this opportunity. I want to bring all committee's attention to an item of discussion that will appear on the Public Works agenda this coming next week. And I think it should be given good consideration by members of our council. As a result of a constituent calling me last fall about their concern with waste collection, I contacted the district to receive and I received a call back from James Steele, the Commissioner of Public Works from the district. It was a very great, I was surprised I got a call back from the district, but it's more in a transition in this group that happened. Mr. Steele identified to me that district staff had implemented the common waste collection point service without first informing the committee or council. And his plan is to bring a common waste collection point service for discussion to the Public Works Committee next week. At this time, I'm not going to go into any detail what that is, but if you'd like to know, just give me a call and I'll give you a quick Cole's note of what that service is. Mr. Steele identified that as I said, a staff report will be available soon. I see this as an important topic when I have read it and studied it for all councillors to take a look at. I had talked to the clerk and I've talked to Mr. Steele, and as soon as that report is available, I'm asking the clerk if she would distribute that report. And if committee would then provide our member on the Public Works of the district, which is Mayor Kelly, with their comments on that report so that he would be prepared to discuss it at next week's meeting. So I guess that's my ask, and I'll watch for the report, or Mayor Kelly, you can let us know when the report's ready so we can share it with committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So just confirming, Director Peroshi, as soon as that report is out, we'll be able to receive that as a committee. And any future comments then could be directed towards Mayor Kelly in advance of next week's meeting. Is that correct? Thank you. Is that okay? Thank you. Are there any other items under new business for this month? Okay, seeing none, I believe that brings our meeting to a close, unless there's anything else. Nothing else? Moved by Councillor Bosenworth, seconded by Councillor Kent. Be it resolved that this meeting adjourn at 11:50 a.m. and the next regular meeting of the General Finance Committee will be held on Wednesday, March the 13th at 9 a.m. or at the call of the chair electronically from the Council Chambers Municipal Office in Fort Carling, Ontario. Okay, just before we vote on this, Councillor Edwards.
I just had one community event that I just found out about, and on March the 9th, the Windermere Lions
Okay.
are having a turkey dinner in Milford Bay. And I just found out about that the other day.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up. And could I just ask then that either you or the Lions put that information into the community calendar at
I
the
will get
township, so
them
all
on
the
it.
details are there for everybody.
Thank
Thank you. Okay, I have now read the resolution. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries. We'll see you back in the chamber for 1 p.m. for council. Have a great lunch.